Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Vicky Castillo with Facets Healthcare Training. I apologize for starting late. Uh, I was having some technical difficulties. So, thank you for joining us. And our topic today, we're going to wait till people would just start jumping in here because I don't want um, to get ahead of myself. So, uh, thanks for joining us. Again, joining from Phoenix, Arizona, and happy to have you here. And I have a lot of great information to share with you today about passing the nurse aide certification test the first time. So that's the topic today. And it's in line with what we covered last week. This is a high testing time for the next several months. So I want to try to provide future nurse aide student testers with as much information as possible to help them pass the first time. So nail that exam the first time. So as people are coming in, I want to be sure that you are finding us and whatnot. So, okay. All right, so if you haven't checked out our website, please do so. We have a lot of very, we're upgrading and adding to our website all the time, Facets Healthcare Training, and it's facetshealthcare.com. So please take a look at it. We offer free trials. I think you'll be really happy with it if you're looking for resources for not only for student individual purchases, but also for schools and training programs as well. So be sure to check that out. Again, we offer free trials not only to students but to schools as well for multiple purposes. It's useful not just for students but for instructor use as well. We've got a lot of instructor resources. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. I am going to start out with a couple of tips first. So first of all, why is it important to start to pass the certification test the first time? Well, there are many reasons why it's important to each person, but some of the reasons to me is you don't want to keep spending your money on retesting fees. I've talked about this multiple times, and you don't want to keep spending your money on testing fees over and over. For most places, the retesting fees for the written test costs anywhere from $30 to $50. If you have to retake the skills test, it can be anywhere from $50 to maybe $90. Again, it can be costly. So the goal is to try to get you enough information to pass the certification test the first time. So that's number one reason. The second reason is when a person doesn't pass the nurse aide certification test the first time, it's emotionally disheartening. It doesn't just cost money, but it's emotionally disheartening. It's discouraging. You start to have doubts about yourself, and sometimes students may not want to go back and take the test again, and so that's sad because you spent a lot of time. The students have spent a lot of time passing the course, getting through the labs, getting through clinicals, getting checked off on skills, and it makes sense that you will want to go back and pass it if you need to. So pass it so that you can accomplish your goals. So so all that time and effort you want for it to pay off for you. So the next reason is if a person does not pass the certification test, the nurse aide certification test the first time, you'll have to go back and study again for it. That means pulling out those books. Not there's anything wrong with that, but you've already studied this material. So you have to pull out the books again. So you have to study. You have to go over all your notes. You have to go over the PowerPoints from your school. You have to look up more resources to help you pass the test. So that's another reason. Another reason is if passing the nurse aide certification test is a prerequisite for nursing school, you will not be able to get into a nursing school or be able to apply. So there will be a lost opportunity there. And the wait lists are already plenty long enough for many nursing schools. So you want to try to get in as quickly as you can. So that's, and that's another reason. And then lastly, of course, every person has their lost opportunities. So what is that lost opportunity for you when you don't pass the certification test? And the other one that I didn't bring up here is um, you may not be able to get that job that you've been wanting to get, or that maybe it's being held for you. May not be able to get that position. Maybe someone's holding a position for you and it's pending passing the certification exam. Not able to pass this exam, can't get the job. So pretty simple. So let's get right into it. Point number one, what do you need to pass that certification test? Well, number one is you need to know what is expected for the test. And how do you know that? You have to have the candidate handbook exam that is put out by every test vendor. So your testing company, whether that be Prometric, Pearson VUE, Headmaster, the American Red Cross, they all have handbooks that they put out, they make public, they make it available to you, that states what is expected during testing. So let me show you mine that I have. So this one here is California Pearson VUE, but Pearson VUE has a handbook for every state that they offer testing for nurse aide. So you can see mine is all tagged, written on. I have it all folded up and whatnot. So if yours doesn't look like that, you probably haven't studied it enough. Here's one from Arizona, nurse aide. I have that one all ear tagged and written on and whatnot, so I know what's expected to be tested in Arizona. Here is the skills requirements for Prometric. I have that, as you can see, all written on. I have it ear tagged, I have it highlighted, so I know what the expectations are for testing in Prometric. Here's another Prometric, important Prometric handout. It tells me what the indirect care behaviors are. I have written all over it. I know what's expected, so you need to have this on hand as well. Here's another one from Nevada Headmaster. I have that one also. I have printed it, or my school gave it to me, if your school gave it to you, but I printed it and I have written all over it so that I know what's expected. Okay, and here's another one for Wisconsin, again for Headmaster. I want to say again, wherever you're going to test, whatever state you're going to test, your test vendor has an entire booklet or resources to tell you what to expect during testing. These handbooks are extremely important because these handbooks tell you not just, give you information specific. For example, they tell you how many questions will be on your test, what subject areas will be on the test. They tell you how much time you will have for testing. It tells you what percentage you need to pass. It tells you what ID to bring. It tells you what you need to, other supplies and materials you need to bring in for testing. It gives you specific categories that you will be tested on, your nurse aide test. It tells you what time to arrive. So it tells you everything you need to know to pass in this test. So it's important to have that handbook. If you do not have that, your state-specific handbook that's provided by your test vendor, you're going into testing with a tremendous disadvantage. So if you have any questions about where to find that handbook, contact your test vendor, or you can also send me an email and I'll be happy to guide you in the right direction. But very important to have that. And they give them for free. There's no charge for these. It's almost always on the website for the test vendor. All right, so that's number one. Want to pass your test? You need to have the handbook on hand. That's number one. Okay, and then just as a reminder, the nurse aide certification examination consists of two components, the written test or the theory test. I'm just going to call it the theory test. It's a written test, or sometimes people take it on the computer, but it's the theory test, and then there's the skills test. So we're going to go over both of those in just a second. All right, so number one, you have to have that handbook on hand. So let's talk about passing the theory component of your certification test. The theory component of the certification test. So that the words I want to use for that is study, study, and study. Did I say study? Yes, I said study. You should study for your theory test at least 40 hours before coming into the test. And I say at least. It could be more, but that's a minimum. A minimum. So here are some reasons why you may need to study more than 40 hours. Okay, if you've been out of school for a while, that means that your training program has ended more than 10 days ago. You're going to need to study more than 40 hours for sure, because we forget material. It's easy to forget what we don't practice and we don't have fresh in our minds all the time. So if it's been more than 10 days that you've taken you completed your training program, that you passed your course, you're going to need to study more than 40 hours. So the sweet time is 7 to 10 days or shortly after taking your course. So if you've gone more than 10 days since you passed your course, you're going to need to study more than 40 hours. Okay, another reason is if you need to that you might need to study more than 40 hours or extra hours is if school has never been of interest to you. I mean, school isn't, I mean, a lot of people really enjoy going to school and some people have not. If you're that kind of person that says, you know, I just don't like school, I did it because I had to, but it's not my thing, you're probably going to have to study more for that certification test. Also, if a student is a C average student, they're going to have to study a little extra. And there's nothing wrong with being a C average. I've gotten C's myself. But what happens is, remember, you wanting to go in there being sure to pass that test. So likely being a C, having just a C is not going to get you to that pass. So another reason for studying extra is if a person has a learning disability. I would like to think, I want to take a sidestep here. I would like to think that if an individual has a learning disability, that the training program communicated that to the testing company and accommodations were made. Now, when I talk about accommodations, I am not saying that the student is going to be uh, absolved or not have to take the certification exam. Yes, the person is still going to have to take the certification exam, but accommodations means maybe they're going to get extra time for testing, both the theory component and the skills component. Maybe the person is going to need a reader to read the test to them. So there's different types of testing accommodations. But again, if there's any question about that, contact the test vendor about testing accommodations for somebody who has a documented disability. If there's any question about that, other sources for that is your instructor or your school, because some test vendors do give testing accommodations. Again, that doesn't mean not taking the test, it just means allocating some exemptions. Okay, so another reason that a person is going to have to study more than 40 hours a week is if English is their second language. I see this a lot. Again, I'm here from Phoenix, Arizona, so we have a large number of Spanish-speaking community. And if this is the case, you're going to have to spend way over 80 hours a week, I would recommend, to study. So keep that in mind. And we're going to talk about what to study in just a little bit. But if English is your second language, you're going to have to spend quite a bit more time studying, and you're going to have to study different sources. So what do you use to study for your theory test? Here we go. This is what my recommendation is. First is your textbook. If you don't have a textbook, or it's lost, or you think it's too old, or it's not readable, purchase a new one. It's well worth the investment. You can get them on sale at on Amazon, or go to the internet, or maybe your school has an extra one they can give you. But you need to you need to use your textbooks and go over those chapters again. You need to read the chapters again. That's number one. Number two is you need to go over notes that you have from school. You took those notes, you should go over and read them again. They're valuable. They'll help you to remember the content again. Bring it back into the front of your thinking. Okay, also if you have PowerPoints from school, you should go over those as well. And if your school allows you to review their quizzes or the tests that you took at the school, I would highly recommend that. Another option is doing Quizlets. You want to be familiar with medical terminology, abbreviations, medical abbreviations and medical terminology. These are important. They're most likely going to be on your test. And and then, of course, take as many practice test questions as you can. Sometimes the students get ahead of themselves and take practice test questions without having reviewed their materials and having gone over their textbook, but I think that that might be a mistake. So it's important to go over the material first, then do practice test questions. Okay, what I want to also say that is a news alert, it's very important, is when you answer the questions on your theory certification test. So when you're answering the questions, you need to answer them based on established practice standards. In other words, what the textbook says you should do, not what you saw in clinicals or what your CNA friend told you you should do. That's not how you should answer the questions. You need to answer the questions based on theory knowledge, what the textbook says you should do, what your PowerPoints say from your school say should be done. So best practices, not what's convenient or what you've seen popularly done or what you saw in clinicals. In clinicals, if you go to clinicals, you most likely saw some habits that are not worthy of duplicating again, or not worthy of doing them, or not acceptable practice standards. I would not answer your test questions based on what you saw in clinicals. You need to answer the test questions based on theory content, very theory based. Okay. I want to put in I'm going to go over just a little bit about all that we have in FAFSAs, but I want to move on here. All right, so let's talk now about the skills test, how to pass the skills test. All right, so there is a higher number of students that fail the skills test than the theory test. So more students tend to fail the skills test first than the theory test. So studying for your skills test will require you to again know the skill steps from your candidate handbook and how you practice them in the lab. So each candidate handbook, I'm going to refer to it again, whichever test vendor you are, tells you all the skills that you will be tested on and the steps for each of those skills, and if they're order specific or order dependent, if there's any critical or bold items in there, steps that must be done in a specific way, in a specific order. It's all in this handbook. So if you don't have the handbook and you're going into doing your skills test, you're at a disadvantage. You're not going to pass. It's not going to happen. So the handbook needs to be, you need to have the handbook so that you can see what the skills are. Another way to pass your skills test is if your school has open lab days to practice skills, you need to be there. You need to be there. Find a way to be there, but you need to be there. Okay, practicing at home on your stuffed teddy bear is not going to be the same as studying in a lab, in the school lab, because you need to be familiar with the bed controls. You want to familiarize yourself again or practice Foley catheter equipment, putting on isolation equipment, putting on a gate belt, taking off a gate belt, where the wheelchair is going to be, how to lock the wheelchair. And you think, it's easy to say, oh yeah, I remember that. But no, it's different actual doing it. You have to do it with your hands. It's a practice test. It's a manual test. That means you have to actually do the skills, not just talk about the skills. So if your school does not provide open lab days, contact them and ask them if they will open it up or allow you to come in to practice your skills. It's very important. They might do it. They have a vested interest to help you because the school's reputation and their pass rate depends on you passing the skills, the entire exam the first time. So they have a vested interest in passing the first time. So I know some of you go to the internet and look up skills, CNA skills, and think that that's going to be the way to do them. I am going to caution you against that because many of the skills that are on the internet are not state specific. They are not vendor specific. So Prometric, Pearson VUE, Headmaster, it's probably not, it's not the way they want it done, and you don't know who's doing the videos. Are they credible? Do they know what they're doing? So I've seen many skills videos on the internet, and I can tell you that they are incorrectly done and not accurate. So be cautious of that. Maybe once in a while you might find one that is, but overall it's not. All right. um, okay, so very quickly, I wanted to give some last tips here for passing. So tip number 3, and this is a series of lightning round ways you need to pass your certification test. Get a good night's sleep before the test. If you're going to go out and have a good time and stay out late with your friends the night before testing, you're probably not going to be successful. It's just probably not going to happen. So get a good night's sleep. Secondly, bring a snack to testing, because sometimes you have to wait 4 to 6 hours before you get your turn to test. And I have had experiences, because I've been a test evaluator before, I've had experiences where students have become hypoglycemic. I remember one specific time I was testing a student as a test evaluator, and I was testing the student. The student didn't get enough food to eat, became hypoglycemic doing the skills test that I was administering. They passed out and they fell on top of my actor. So nobody was hurt. Luckily, we were able to take care of the situation pretty quick and respond quickly. But it was a clear example of someone who had not eaten and was in a rush to take this test, and it didn't work out well for them. Next is, most test sites will allow you to bring study materials. So instead of just sitting there for 4 to 6 hours at the test site doing stuff that may not be pertinent to testing, bring your study materials. Many test sites do allow you to study while you're waiting. If you have questions about testing, contact your instructor, your school, and your testing company, your test vendor. They are there to help you to be successful the first time. Know your handbook inside and out, and like the back of your hand. You have to know that handbook, and it tells you everything you need to know to pass. And then lastly, I wanted to go over some great resources that we have on Facets to help you pass this certification test. Our skills videos are state specific, so you don't have to wonder whether we're credible or accurate. We are. I do the skills videos myself, so I can tell you I spend a lot of time studying whatever the candidate handbook is and being in touch with experts in those states to be able to be able to deliver and produce videos, skills videos that are accurate for testing. So that's number 1. Number 2, we have an entire bank of CNA practice test questions. We're up to probably over 1,500 test questions in all the subject areas that you're going to be tested on. So we have a vast test bank library with answers as well. So we have a lot there for you to choose from. Also, we have lesson plans. Our lesson plans are PowerPoints, and at the end of each lesson plans, there's quizzes as well. And the wonderful thing about our lesson plans, they're audio, and it really helps for that English as a second language learner, and also for individuals who have learning disabilities to hear it. So that's very helpful. We also have a math test bank. Some of you will be tested on math, conversion, military time, converting ounces to milliliters. So we have a math test bank as well. And I'm just doing the tip of the iceberg here. We have so much more for you to study for, all to prepare you for the certification exam and help you to be successful. So if you do these things that I've gone over on this video today, you will be successful. Please contact me if you have any questions. You can go to www.facetshealthcare.com and go to the contact tab, and you can send me an email. Also, I'm on Facebook, and I am on Twitter, and I am on Instagram. So there's many ways you can get in contact with me. It's not that hard. So if you have any questions, let me know. But I hope this has been helpful, and good luck to you on passing that certification exam the first time, because you are needed as a CNA and you are appreciated. You have a good rest of your day. Thanks.